Hey guys, it's Kate and I hope you're having a great day. I'm here with my Mozart Kohlrabi palette and a piece of watercolor paper taped down to a bottom, and I'm going to be doing a couple different techniques today in making an abstract painting. So I'm going to grab my wax resist. You can also use a candle, a crayon, anything. This is a wax resist stick, which is basically like a crayon but without any pigment in it. It's just clear. And then I've also got my stylus to do some mark making, and I am going to be doing some acrylic painting over this after it dries. But I want to make a really nice fun background. So I'm going to start with my wax resist, and I'm just going to make some just very loose marks. I can't even see where I'm going, but I'm just going to come in here and make some texture. So I'm going to be painting over this, and I'm working on cold press paper, and so that's going to leave a bit of a pattern in the background, and it's not going to be a very clean line. So next I'm going to grab my bigger brush, and I'm going to be going straight into the pan today. I'm going to work with a very wet brush, but I'm not going to wet my paper first. So I'm going to start, I think, with some brighter colors. Now, my idea in my mind is kind of a pot of flowers that I'm going to do some negative painting after. So I'm going to have my pot somewhere down here and my flowers somewhere up here on a background. So that's where I am going to concentrate a lot of my color. So I'm going to start with my pot area, and I want to do some nice neutrals. So I'm going to go into this burnt umber and just start adding it in here. And you can see how it goes around my pencil marks. And I'm going to grab plenty more water and get that coating on the paper. I'm going to go back into my pan and get some darker pigment. And then I'm also going to go into some, maybe a little bit of a warmer color, maybe a yellow, or this red ochre looks pretty good. So I'm just going to dip a little extra water on my brush. Yeah, I like that. That's nice and earthy. And maybe on here, I'm going to bring that up, maybe even add some Payne's gray. And I'm not trying to do anything specific here, just some very loose blobs. Next, I'm going to go into some brilliant yellow and add some brightness and let it mix. We still have our earthiness here. And I'm going to go into, I think, my yellow ochre. And I'm going to let this bleed out and just keep working my way up the page. And you can see that awesome wax resist coming through. So I'm going to start on my flowers after I get some more yellow ochre in the background here. And I'm going to go in for some nice bright colors. I'm going to go into this carmine and just start getting it onto the paper. Maybe some of this violet. And I want to make sure to get some green in here. So I'm going to dip into this olive green first and just let it go. This is very loose, very abstract. I'm going to let some of that floral color kind of come down into the bottom here, and we're going to just let it get very messy, leaving our brush marks in. And some of this is going to be covered up later, and some of it we're going to keep on seeing. So I'm going to get a little bit more green in here and just let that get dark. Now I'm going to grab my stylus. While all this is wet, I'm going to make some more marks, and what this is going to do is make an area for that paint to sink down in those creases. And so over where I have my flowers, I'm just going to put some light marks here with my stylus, not too much, but just add a little bit of texture around where I can kind of see some of these flowers. And I'm also going to do some lines where I've got my leaves here too. That way it's going to darken up as it dries, and it's going to give us some extra lines. Now we might not keep everything, but it will give us some more interest visually, especially once we're kind of deciding where we want to put some more paint and doing our negative painting later. And you can also already see some of that darkening up. Now I'm going to add a little bit more green in here to the areas where it has kind of faded out, because I want to get some nice rich color. Now I'm going to go back into some of these reds and kind of go over some of this again too. Now I'm kind of going over where we have some of our marks here, and it's just still gonna pretty much sink in. And you can still see that white crayon in the background. I'm going to grab some more of this yellow ochre and let that come in from the back. And a little bit more Payne's Gray and get it nice and messy. Now if you want to do any color lifting, you can also grab a piece of paper towel or a sponge or anything like that. So if it is damp enough still, you can do some lifting and add texture even to your flower areas, just like that. I'm going to add a little bit of that Payne's Gray up top so we can get some sort of deep colors up here. A little bit more of this green. You can always do some more blotting. And then I think this is ready to dry. Before I let it dry, I'm going to add one more little flower here, kind of in the middle, because I kind of have 4 big ones here and it just looks sort of like a square, and I don't want that. So I'm just going to add a couple little pops of this red. Nothing too big, but kind of let it bleed out a bit and just let some of that color go in here. And I think that gives it a little bit more balance. Okay, we are dry. I'm going to come back in with my stylus and I'm going to make some more marks on my paper here, because I'm going to go over this with some marker, and I'm interested to see if it will skip over some of these lines so we can keep some texture in the background. This is kind of a fun little watercolor experiment, so I'm really excited to see how it turns out. All right, I just put some lines and hash marks and stuff on here. I'm going to grab my big black Posca and start coloring around the outside of this painting. So looks like the lines didn't so much take, but those, well, a couple of them did. That's kind of neat. I like not having that super solid black, so that's good to know. All right, now as we get to the outside of these flowers, I'm going to use the corner of this to kind of trace around my bouquet and then fill in the outside just like that. And this is all arbitrary. You might have some areas that you would prefer to color in or leave blank, and so I'm going to start slow around this edge, and I can always take off more if I feel like I want to. And I'm also going to be keeping an eye on my bouquet itself just to make sure that it has a nice shape. I'm going to move this palette out of the way and tilt my paper a little bit so that I can see better where I am actually marking. And I kind of like the grungy look of this and that really high contrast with the watercolor. I'm going to cut this down a bit I don't really want it to go all the way to the edge of the paper. And I think this is a pretty good start. I'm going to cut in just a little bit more around there, a little bit more here, and I'm going to cut this red flower out, and I'm going to do a little bit more trimming on this side also. I'm just sort of finding some good areas, one that have a natural edge with the watercolor, and I'm also just trying to look at the overall shape here. This part over here I want to do some trimming, and I just need to figure out where exactly I want to go. I kind of like these Payne's gray areas. This is kind of a messy spot, so I think I'm going to cut that. And now that's a little bit too boxy. So I am going to, let's see, maybe bring it down here a little bit. Maybe this one. I'm going to curve the edge of this vase a bit. Just like that. I don't want to trim off too much. I think this is probably good. Okay, so now that we have our outline done, and we've done a little bit of negative painting around that, because that is an acrylic paint marker, I can come back in here and work on a second coat with some more details. We can also add some metallics if we want to. Now I'm just going to add a little bit of Payne's gray here. And we can do a little bit of painting on the inside here where we have our vase and all the stuff we've got going on. So I'm going to leave kind of an outline here, but I want to add a little bit lower contrast on this vase and add some more color. I might even go into this turquoise just a little bit. I like that. Yeah, that's pretty. And that adds some color down at the bottom. And then I'm going to come back into some of these greens and just pump them up just a little bit. And I'm kind of painting inside the lines here. And I really like that effect because you get still some high contrast and a little bit extra lines where you have just some more saturated color and some more clearly defined outlines to your flowers. So I'm just going through kind of lightly, adding some of these marks back in. And I'm just blotting my brush a little bit, softening a few edges here, but this is where I'm bringing out some texture. And I'm not going over everything, just being a little bit picky on where I'm adding my brush strokes. And you can really see it brightening up quite a bit. Let me go back into this green and just kind of deepen up some of that. And I might also add a little bit more around these these flowers. Okay, lastly, I'm going to go into this violet just a little bit so we can get some nice darkness in here. And I'm going kind of straight out of the pan so that we can get some really nice color payoff here. And if there's anywhere that is particularly muddy, you can use this as an opportunity to just darken it up, make the color a little bit deeper, or places where you just don't have a lot of clarity about what is going on. And I really want this to be an abstract painting, but you can also still add a little bit of detail there. And I might go into this turquoise Just add a couple of little touches so that we have some color up here that we've also got down below. And why don't we add a little bit of metallic here also? I'm going to go into this metallic green, which is actually a really nice color. And I'm just going to just kind of dip my brush here a little bit randomly in some of these spots, especially when you get toward the outside and you can actually take that metallic and go over your black. It's pretty opaque when you put a thick coating on it. So if you want to add some more color and go back over your black, you absolutely can. I'm going to take a little bit of the blue and come down the side of our vase, maybe a little bit on this side too. And then how about some of this metallic purple? Because I do not get into these metallics enough, but they're really pretty. Let's get a little bit more water. These weren't activated, so I just want to kind of work at it a little bit. And I'm just going to add some a little bit randomly here. Now I'm going to add a little bit of texture to the outside. So I've grabbed my white Posca, and I don't really know exactly how much I want to do, but for right now I'm going to start with this dashed line on the outside of my little vase, and I might add maybe a few little leaf shapes here. I don't know how I'm going to like it, so I'm trying to be sparing. I kind of like adding these sketchy marks, and it adds some more contrast there. I don't know, what do you think? I love all the little marks, and there's so much that, I mean, we have going on here. It's a cute little mixed media piece. A few little dots there maybe that kind of connect into the painting. Why not? And maybe just a few over here. And how about a few coming from the top? I think that looks really cool. I like that a lot. I want a little bit more contrast in my flowers. So I'm going to come back into this violet. And I'm just going to add a little bit to a couple of these areas that could be flower centers. I like that. All right. I think this is a good painting. All right, I'm going to take my tape off so we can see everything. And that way, all the spots where I colored, you know, this just kind of makes it look messy. But then you see that clean edge and it's like, wow, it looks totally different. It's just what it needed. Yeah, I'm glad I added that white in here. That was a good choice. I'm going to give you the close-up. And you can see all the stuff we've got going on here. This was a kind of fun experiment. You can see that we still have some wetness on here too, but a lot of that sparkle is the metallic paint. And you can see that in the light, but I really love this painting. It was just fun. It's a fun little exercise to do. I like how we got some of that texture here from the black marker. I wish it had happened more. I think it was just almost like a dry brush look, which I really like. But anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. Grab some supplies and try something like this. You can use acrylic paint or whatever you want, but it's a really fun little activity. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more like this, make sure to subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching, and until next time, keep creating.